And we're live. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of 302 of a Kind. This is us, Kevin.
And Marcus.
Yeah, and thank you. We need to talk about this, how we do this.
We'll
But we're
figure it
getting
out.
better. Every show is getting better. So thanks for sticking with us. And you did the right decision because we got a lot of stuff to talk to you about. There's a lot of chatter in the SEO community. And we need to talk about this. And I'm so excited to have Kevin with me here once again at the end of the week to talk about all these interesting things that happened during the week. I would say, why not jump right in, right?
Let's go. It's a packed week.
That's it. We get so much stuff. I mean, the biggest news obviously was the launch of Opal. So basically, Google launched a new no-code AI app builder. There's several ones out there. This isn't really the news itself. Oh my God, a no-code AI app builder. Okay, nobody's going to be excited about that. But obviously, everybody's looking when Google releases something like this, and even more so, how Google is releasing this, because it's not really this tool itself that sparked the industry chatter. It was more so the narratives they were using, what you can do with this tool. Automating the hard stuff, I love it. Okay, streamline research, make sense of data, create repeatable workflows. Sounds awesome. What else can I do? Oh, creating custom content. Okay, that sounds interesting. So I can create custom content. So it lets me create AI content for Google. So it's perfect, right? Apps that help writers brainstorm narratives, generate scripts, and even produce accompanying audio voiceovers. Sounds it. I'm sold. I want to use this. And this, I mean, like this basically innocent product release sparked a lot of backlash from the SEO community. Obviously, coming from, first of all places, from the guys that were affected by the HCU update, that were, wine and dine at the Googleplex. Everything's going to be okay. And next year we're going to celebrate how you all came back. Okay, that didn't happen. But now, and everybody's like, well, let's see. Nate Haig, right? This is one of the guys that was impacted by the HCU update. Is very vocal about. We talked about his post last week. I was just making a joke with this. Google is now selling a literal AI spam machine. Google advertises Opal as ideal for creating scaled AI content like optimized AI blog posts, fake imagery, AI travel planning content. And also Pedro Diaz, and this is a very important voice in our SEO community, because Pedro is a former Google and a fantastic human being besides that, and obviously also spectacular SEO. And he also has a very interesting stance. Google has historically opposed to any kind of content creation at scale. So I'm a bit sad to see this language in their official communication channels. And I think what he refers to is basically a lot of Googlers sitting there. Hey, we've been fighting automated spam for years, and now we're giving these guys tools to do it even more. That doesn't say a lot about the job you've been doing for the last couple of years. Also it's crazy. What do you make out of it? What did you think when you first saw the announcement of Google Opal?
Yeah, to me, this is a classic case of big company. I think there's the team behind Opal probably, didn't think too much about this announcement and how they position Opal. And they're probably disconnected a lot, or very disconnected from the rest of the organizations. It's still a bad look. Don't get me wrong. It's a very, very bad look. And you can tell by Nate Haig, who, to your point, right, like obviously is very insulted by this, maybe rightfully so, right? Because you get two different signals from the company. But, I think if you look at the timeline here, meaning our search liaison is not at Google anymore, or does not do search liaison stuff anymore, right? And now instead you have these kind of things popping up. I think it just goes to show that Google is just not, I don't want to do a disservice to people like John Mueller and Gary Ish and Martin Splitt, who do their best to share. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, we're coming from the old webmaster world days, just the Google guy, nobody else. These guys do a tremendous job helping webmasters around the world. So obviously, yes.
Yes, exactly. Obviously, got to do them a shout out and acknowledge their great work. And at the same time, I think as a company, Google is caring less and less about webmasters in general, and they're just caring more about AI. And I don't know how to evaluate that, if I like that, if I hate that, if it's just how things go sometimes, right? But you can tell that the focus shifts, and it's very much in line with traffic over time, right? Like Google knows they're sending less and less traffic out. They made that decision consciously. And so at the same time, if they don't send out, traffic anymore or not as much, then why care about the webmasters and why try, like why care about the signals that you send? So I think this is part of a bigger topic, and it's a bigger shift of focus away from content providers and more towards generative AI.
But as one thing, when I read this announcement, I also saw the hypocrisy, right? I was like a little bit, really? I mean, this is really giving it a little bit of a bad look. But I mean, like let's say how it is. Google always said you can use AI tools to create content as long as it's helpful. So yep. I mean, there's not really anything contradictory here, because they stated this is totally fine to work with these kinds of tools. And isn't this just like the next logical step for Google then to say, well, before somebody else is using a different tool, why not using a Google tool itself? Which, I mean, like, just imagine if you were to do mass scale AI spam kind of things as Google, I would love to have people do that stuff with my tools, because I would assume I can detect that content a little bit better, maybe even, like fingerprinted and some sort or whatever. And if people would create that en masse, I think with fingerprinting, it gives you an interesting cohort of content. You can also, measure other AI content against or whatever else. I mean, there's, I think, so much stuff you could do with this. So is this really the hypocrisy we're crying out, or is it just, this is just SEOs, just they want to release some steam?
I think it's a spectrum, and I think it's a bit more the latter, right? It's a bit more to releasing stream, because you're absolutely right. Google never said that AI generated content is necessarily worse. If it's the same quality or satisfying to users, then go for it. And again, I think, like Google did not say replace all of your human writers and use Opal, right? Like that's not exactly what they said. So I think this is it's an emotional, polarizing topic with people who were clearly harmed by not great decisions from Google. And I think the great scale of things, this should not come across the wrong way, but I think Google just doesn't care as much. They have other problems they need to talk about or figure out. ChatGPT and that whole, like, how to constrain their growth, right? There's a lot happening right now. And I think the reality is that SEO, most Googlers don't even know what SEO is. They don't care about SEOs. And this is an example of a team that has no awareness about this. They obviously, insulted some people with this, but I don't think there was any intentional, thought behind that.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't think there was like really, okay, now we're gonna drive him crazy, right? and secretly, it's really Dennis Sullivan who stepped back from Search Create, running this program, right? So he had that event and basically gathered all the information. Now he built like the ultimate tool to replace all these writers, which were apparently not helpful enough. So I mean, whatever. Okay, basically, by the way, Google has also responded, to these allegations. They sent a statement to Barry Schwartz. So this Google Labs experiment, so now it's a Google Labs experiment, okay, helps people develop mini apps. And we're seeing people create apps that help them brainstorm narratives and first drafts of marketing content to build upon. In search, our systems aim to surface original content, and our spam policies are focused on finding content that is designed to manipulate search while offering little value to users. Perfect example of saying nothing with a lot of words. I go, well, okay. Thank you very much for that statement. Then I was like a Gemini prompt. Hey, can you please give me a statement? Basically saying nothing, but be like very mindful of the discussion going on and everything.
It was an Opal workflow, right? It's like
Yeah.
every email from Barry goes into Opal and out comes a PR text.
Yeah. Either. Yeah. So not a real response, but these are not the droids you're looking for. This is nothing. This is all good. Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
it's really just a fluke. Nobody gonna talk about it next week, or are we all gonna use it because it works incredibly well for creating that content? Do people, and this is my last question here, do people now maybe feel empowered to do that kind of stuff? So somebody that was sitting there formerly and was saying like, no, I'm not gonna do this, because I'm gonna be careful. I don't want to get penalized. And now there's a Google tool that offers all of this. And does it somehow legitimize? I mean, it does, because Google has stated it's okay to do that, but doesn't it legitimize this in a way that is not really like spot on Google's narrative here? What do you think?
I hope it empowers people. I think these tools have something to them, and even though we have to be careful with them, like with AI in general, everybody should think about how to make their work more efficient, right? I mean, I don't want to paint a doomsday picture here, right? But every manager and every board is right now asking themselves, how can we operate more efficiently? And do we need all the people, especially junior people that we have in the company right now? And I have my feelings about that, but that's part of the reality. And so I think everybody should figure out how to automate more of their work, not just because of the sake of automation, but also because it honestly makes the work a lot better. When I'm thinking about, okay, how can I automate this process? I have to think much deeper about that process and which steps are necessary and which, like, how do you evaluate success, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think it makes the work better. I think it's a good exercise for everyone. And I'm curious to see if I can, finally build a workflow that better sorts and labels my email in Gmail with freaking Opal. I don't know, man. Like, we'll try
I'm
it
an
out.
inbox zero guy. I don't need that kind of stuff. This is like really just for the cluttered people.
Me too. But I want to automate the inbox zero more, right? And the funny thing is, I wanted to try Opal, and it's not available in Germany.
Yeah,
so,
dude, I tried it as well. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna use it, right? I wanted to spin it up, wanted to do some stuff, see how it does, and then do some cool screenshots with it, right? And then it's like, oh, it's not available. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna VPN my way into it, and okay, it's blah, blah, blah.
Lame, very lame. They could have also said that on the website, right? Like, identify where I'm from and say, oh, sorry, Opal is not available. Sign up
and
here if you want to be
especially after
notified.
saying Opal is now available in more than 160 countries. I mean, there's not a lot left, right? Which are left out here. So
it's really not much.
Yeah. So thank you very much for not choosing.
For nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's not talk about Opal anymore. Another topic I want to talk to you about, obviously, is your newest blog post on Search Engine Journal, and I think it talks about a very important thing right now: SEO budget. A lot of companies, and I also have that day in, day out. I also have these discussions all the time, how to really come up with a good SEO budget. And especially today, when a lot of people are like, this is a part of SEO, this is not a part of SEO, they have separate budgets, or obviously I mean for AI search engines as well as the Google organic search, and I mean there's so much uncertainty right now. And I think you really turned out a great post about exactly that. So why don't you lead us a little bit into what are your main points with this article?
Totally. So I've been through the same rounds of conversations as you, where leadership is like, cool, let's, like, how do we determine budget? Like, how much should we plan for next year? And the reality is, it's really hard to forecast traffic right now because it's declining everywhere, right? There's a lot of volatility. There's a lot of, there's ChatGPT, there's all this other kind of stuff that plays into it. And so I think you can kind of, like, dislocate your own brain by trying to reverse engineer some crazy math that tells you where you land, or you can just budget for capacity. So I found this interesting stat here where I mean, first of all, I asked my LinkedIn users, do people even understand the value of a mention? Just to get a feeling for, if you budget based on traffic or visibility, do leadership even understand what that means, right? Like, and the reality is that I was actually surprised to see 43 as a number here. I thought it was going to be way lower, but more than half of leaders, meaning stakeholders, don't yet understand the value of a mention, and that is in kind of monetary.
I mean, it's a very biased target group when you are using your LinkedIn,
Sure.
right, and ask about something like this. I mean, like, obviously, it's going to be biased into a little bit more
Higher,
proficient users, or
yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And so anyway, I think a better way to think about budgeting, especially in SEO, is based on capacity. And the reason is you can, most market leaders are very used to budget based on paid search, where it makes sense to factor in a traffic and revenue projection because you control all the variables, right? It really depends on what you spend on and how good your landing pages are. But at the end of the day, you can control all the variables. In SEO, that's not the case. And AO, or whatever you want to call it, SEO 3.0, it's just not the case. And so instead, you want to think about, what do we need to grow our visibility / traffic / keywords, right? / share of voice. And the reality is that it's most often a combination of people and tooling. So you need engineering support, you need design support, content writers or content support, and then you need tools to measure how well you're doing, and of course give you some input in what to do. That's essentially the formula for SEO and organic. And so by budgeting for that, budgeting for capacity much rather than traffic, you can then say, okay, with that capacity, here is how much we can get roughly done. But it also includes a understanding of output, right? So say if you have 2 engineers, right, a designer and some content writers, how much can they possibly do? And then you can relate that back to potential impact. So for example, if you double the team size or the capacity for next year, you can probably expect roughly double the output, and don't include traffic or clicks in that, right? But you can probably double the output. And I think that's a much more exact, but also truthful way of budgeting, rather than saying, okay, let's start with what we could get and then decide how much we want to invest, because it's much harder to get to that number.
Very interesting. I mean, you obviously do this with a lot of companies you are consulting with, and you also obviously share your expertise when it comes to things like this. How is the adoption? Is this really is this something you're seeing right now, or is this basically, hey, I'm not seeing this. This is how everybody should be doing it?
I see this very little right now. Some companies are open to this, but most companies should run this approach, and that's in part for why I wrote this memo. I'm seeing still the old reflex of saying, okay, let's start with the traffic projection and then multiply by conversion rates and then see what we can get out of that, right? But then you forget declining traffic. How do you factor that in? You have to factor in net new content type of stuff. You have to factor in, if you talk about AI visibility, it's a completely different game. Good luck projecting that. So I don't know. You also work with a lot of companies. How do you see companies approaching budgeting for AI visibility right now?
Well, yeah, I see all different kind of things what people are doing. I mean, yeah, it's hard to say, because there's really not it's really very different with almost every company I work with right now, how they're seeing this. Are they also seeing this as an SEO play, as the SEO team actually doing that kind of stuff, right? I mean, a lot with the brand building, right? Digital PR, and stuff like this, also some buckets are being allocated differently to account for that. But this is why I think you wrote such a great article, because I think right now there's very little guidance, and it's a time of very high uncertainty, and there's very little guidance, very little best practice people can revert back to, right? And so I think it's extremely important what we wrote here, because this is like, as at some point this needs to, like come out of this, right? We need a best practice. We need like KPIs we can all agree on to make it somehow comparable again, right? And not like everybody's doing their own thing, focusing on their own stuff, so to speak. So I definitely see this, but as I've always stayed away from basically consulting people in regards to this, because I'm like, hey, this is the time right now. You need to double down, right? I see traffic is going down, but nevertheless, it's going to be the people that embrace this, that really, stride forward and really want to tackle this, that are going to be the winners. And so this is what you got to do, right? You just got to believe it's going to work, because I think the alternative is not an option. It's not an option to go, okay, I'm going to go radio silent, and I'm basically waiting here for the best practice, what other people do, and so I can do that, right? I think that's fatal, because people are just going to overtake you, and it's going to be very hard to, overtake them again. So yeah, also, again, I saw your post. I mean, I already read it in the email, and I was like, damn, this is good. And there needs to be this like standard process for the people that to really have guidance here. Very interesting. Also, I'm definitely going to point people to that article when they have this conversation. If you have any, everybody here in the comment section, I mean, like, feel free to share what you're thinking about this. I think this is a very interesting topic. By the way, Rüdiger is thinking, must C-level want to see some kind of ROI projection? That's it. I mean, okay, Rüdiger is obviously thinking like a C-level here. And I think this is the big thing, because this is what people want, what people expect. And as I just said, what I'm saying is like, whatever the KPIs are saying, you need to double down, invest even more. Let's go big. Yeah. Go big or go home. But an experienced CEO is like, hey, I mean, like, seen that stuff time and again, I want some sort of ROI projection if I spend that money here. And he's also responsible, for his stakeholders, for his colleagues, for everyone, right? So it's tough to make this decision without a reliable KPI that I can basically run an ROI against. How do you mitigate these kinds of concerns people have when you pitch them this concept?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so I've thought about this, and where I landed is that these conversations are actually already happening. And they're happening for departments like R&D or like research. And look, like, companies like OpenAI have massive research departments, Meta, Google, and good luck like asking a researcher what's going to come out of the research, right? It's not how research works. So I think this needs to be R&D budget. This needs to be R&D budget where you cannot commit to an exact outcome, because the reality is we don't know enough. I'm speaking specifically here about AI visibility, right? When it comes to SEO, you can kind of back your way into some sort of a calculation, maybe through PPC, right? Like, or maybe by saying, look, we're going to grow as fast as the company grows, right? Like, you can find your formula. I've written about that in the past as well. So if anybody's curious, happy to share that again. But when it comes to AI visibility, I also get these questions because people still think it works like search. But the reality is that we don't know. We don't know enough to commit to a goal. And so, do we want to grow it? Yes. Do we want to grow by how much? The best I can think of is if you look at your share of voice, maybe over the last 3 months, you can project that forward and say, okay, if we keep going, here's maybe where we land. But everything else, I think, would be foolish to commit. And so you need to change the narrative. You need to change and reframe the conversation to say, this is not a performance channel. This is an R&D project. We need to learn and experiment. And then we're going to come back once we're smarter And at some point, maybe we're able to forecast, but right now, nobody knows.
But, and now let me play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
I mean, obviously we're saying this. We're SEOs. We're the guys that want that budget. If it's like from an SEO budget, R&D budget, I don't care what budget you give me, but I need the budget. I want the budget to do this. Obviously, we are saying this. Fuck the KPIs, just believe in it, double down, let's do it. I mean, it's us saying, the SEOs. This is basically, I don't know, the barkeeper saying you should drink more. This is going to solve your problems. You just got to drink more and put it. You don't have money anymore, put it out of another budget because this is going to help whatever, right? I don't know. Bad example probably, but I didn't say it's alcohol, so it could also be, you should drink more orange juice or whatever. But nevertheless, I mean, like, it's obvious that we are saying this, right? And are we taking a knife to a gunfight here? Like, yeah, we can project, we can't. This is not serious. It would be not good if it wouldn't even commit to any number. But give me more budget.
I mean, I'm curious about what the guns look like, right? So, what are the arguments that somebody else can bring to the table to guarantee?
Yeah, you want me to spend money. I want to know, what do I get for the money?
Yeah,
50,000 euros. Here's the car. Drives this fast. It has 4 tires that reach the ground. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, and I want to know what I'm paying for. You go to the CEO and say, hey, I'm the Indic. I want 100K from you, I don't have KPIs for you. I won't project anything. You have to do it. You have to do it.
Sure.
So, and he's like, hey, I want to know, what am I getting, Mr. Indic?
Yeah,
I'll tell you. Mr. Indic?
The Indic, I love it. I'll say, look, like, I don't know what you're getting, but I know what the objective is, right? The objective is obviously to influence people when they search on ChatGPT, and we want to be more visible than our competitors. I mean, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, you can set a target for share of voice and say we want to be the most visible of our competitors in the space. What that means, though, no idea, right? Like, we don't know. So that's the part that I think is uncertain. Can you set that target for a number? Sure. Do you know if it's the right number? You're not sure. You're measuring the right prompts? Not sure. Do you know how to get there? Somewhat, right? We know some things. So that's where it gets blurry. And that's why, you often have this journey of a goal, which goes through, like, from SEO to the CMO to the CFO, right? Because the CFO needs to greenlight the budget so that the CMO can do the things. And so the CMO obviously wants to get that relationship between kind of the impact that they can have and how much budget they need to drive that impact, right? Mm-hmm. So I get the motivation, but there needs to be a company-wide conversation. And the good thing is that these conversations are happening not just with research and with R&D, but also with AI in general, right? Because leadership is getting pressure from the boards, because the boards want to see the AI strategy. And so there is room for pockets of budgets to say, okay, look, we know the objective, but let's take into account that most of this is uncharted, unknown territory. Now, what I will admit is that this conversation can look different when it comes to e-commerce, right? Mm-hmm. In e-commerce, you might have a better understanding of how much you get from ChatGPT today, how much you might get in the future, because any click and influence is so much more related to a transaction. But if you're in SaaS or in enterprise B2B, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah. Good luck. Okay, so it's really about don't stop believing. You can
exactly.
do it. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, great. I love it. Okay. Let's talk about some other things. By the way, Professor Dr. Mario Fischer just sent me his latest article on Search Engine Land is out. A little bit too late, Mario. The end of the web. So we're going to talk about the end of the web next week. Actually, really the website boosting was about this topic. He was just on a podcast talking about this. Is super interesting. So we're going to talk about this next week.
Teaser.
Yeah, but I love how you like try to sneak it into our show just before we started. Nice try, Mario. Okay, let's talk about some other things. A lot of stuff has happened. This news was discussed quite widely. Google's preferred sources tool is jammed with spam. There are a lot of people, well, I mean, like Discover, great news source, obviously, and a lot of people are trying to game this system a little bit by registering expired domains, which still have a little bit of authority left, but might also, make it a little bit faster to get some traffic out of it. So it's basically the old play with the whole expired domain, creating new content on it, make it rank here, mostly about Discover. But there's also people like really shady, basically registering domains, especially from India. So basically like semrush.com, so the company I'm working for proudly, semrush.com, this is semrush.com.in, yeah, and there's the New York Times .in, and the Huffington Post .in, and yeah, believe me, the Huffington Post is not writing about normal stuff. They are writing casino reviews and poker bonus codes, right? So yeah, what would you expect, right? And so this is really crazy. And I mean, like obviously, I can totally see this, how people fall victim to this. Basically, they see the New York Times, and these are fake articles. They look like the New York Times, and they're just coming from a different domain, and it works like a charm. And especially in this case, and this is why this preferred sources tool is now jammed with spam. And I'm mentioning this because, again, this is a week old, because Google is now actually fighting this. There was a lot of backlash here. A lot of people are really pissed off by this, especially with so much spam in Discover. I mean, because formerly they used to get a lot of traffic from Discover. It's getting less and less and less. And now you see all that spam in there, and you're like, hey, Google, clean up your backyard. What's going on, right? And so Google promised to work on a fix. And it's in the work. We keep the vast majority of spam out of Discover through robust spam fighting systems and clear policy against new and emerging forms of low quality manipulative content. We're actively working on a fix that will better address the specific type of spam that's being referenced here, maintaining our high bar for quality in Discover. Yeah, that's basically going on. I also, by the way, saw it in German, which is really crazy. So I had these fake Tagesschau, and it looks exactly like Tagesschau, but it was something about AfD and the alternative for Germany, which is not really alternative. It's actually no alternative at all. It's like the worst alternative we could possibly have, right? And it was something about this, and this was like really a state actor play, right? Because this was like some Russian influence. I mean, like obviously what the narrative there was very pro-Russian, so to speak, on a Tagesschau entity, which it wasn't. But this is really taken a little bit overhand, as I can see now. So I'm applauding that Google is now really working on a fix here, because this is just horrible. What's going on?
Yeah, it's terrible. I think first of all, it's funny because everybody worries about AI spam, but here we are, new spam. But on a more serious note,
but the stuff is probably just written with AI. Nobody's sitting there like, oh, how can I, do the best casino review here?
Yeah, totally. No, it's definitely AI enabled. But what's interesting is because why are people doing this with Discover and not Google News? Part of it, sure, is this new functionality, but another part is that Google Discover works very differently than regular search or even Google News. Google Discover works in traffic spikes, right? So you have this insane amount of traffic that all comes at once. And then disappears very quickly again. And that's perfect for spam, because spam methods are not sustainable. So it makes a lot of sense why bad actors are using this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And again, and this goes into the millions. You can even reach more people that you could ever do with organic search. And this is, I think, why also there's like a lot of political influence, not just like trying to sell gaming stuff or Bitcoin or whatever. This is also very political, because just there's so many eyeballs that can see this stuff when you're doing it right. By the way, Rüdiger wants to revert back to the last topic again. Devil's advocate: budget for a not hard to find goal for the share of voice in an area that at the moment makes less than 2% of traffic. And that after you SEOs told us for 20 years that traffic is the KPI. Yeah. Sorry, my bad. I always said that. Yeah.
I know it's to comment on this. I hear you. I think honestly, like, there's a lot of change management involved right now. Traffic is definitely not the thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's these conversations are happening everywhere that, traffic is down and it's declining continuously. Where does that lead us eventually? What's the alternative? So I totally take Rüdiger's point here. There is something to be said about the fact that SEOs fought for so long to get a seat at the table and to get awareness and budget, and now it's like, oh no, we actually need to change again. But the whole space being disrupted, right? Like, there's no, I don't see an alternative.
Absolutely. All right, and obviously everybody is scraping Wikipedia. We talked about it last show. Wikipedia traffic is down. You also did a very interesting analysis on Wikipedia traffic being down. And we talked about that this is actually a big threat to, I think, the whole web ecosystem, because Wikipedia is basically relying on people donating, and they don't have any advertisement or anything else, so they need donations from people. And obviously Wikipedia getting less and less traffic, there's less eyeballs seeing these hey, please donate kind of things, and obviously leads to less donations, and obviously could lead to a very fast downfall even of even a big institution like Wikipedia, because obviously you need a lot of people to help with that. You need money to provide that, and if this goes away, we got the Elon Musk waiting with his Scrocopedia, whatever. I like it's like a little bit Astrid Lindgren. I paint the world like I want it to be, right? And this is, I think, the big threat. And now Wikipedia is coming out swinging. Wikipedia urges AI companies to use its paid API and stop scraping. Yeah, I mean, come out swinging. They basically like say, hey, I know you love our content. It would be great if you wouldn't scrape us, if you would, use the paid API. Is this a little bit tame for Wikipedia? Are they also fighting enough the fight they should fight for our web ecosystem?
Look, it's very interesting that OpenAI is fighting to turn from a non-profit to a for-profit. And it's because, they want to make money, makes sense. Maybe in part, they also need the funding to finance all of the other investments and projects and all that kind of stuff. I think Wikipedia is in a similar challenge, right? Because as a non-profit, you cannot just gate access completely and ask for money, because then you're not a non-profit anymore. And the reality is Wikipedia was always underfunded. They always needed to fight for money. And now their content is being taken away. It's technically open source content, right? And they're getting no traffic in return. I checked today, and the referral traffic from all generative AI platforms to Wikipedia makes up 0.13% of total traffic, right? So they get basically nothing. And I would even argue that when you see Wikipedia referenced in LLMs, often there's no attribution because it's part of the training data. And if there is an attribution, people don't click it, right? So there's really it's not great for Wikipedia. And so, Wikipedia needs to make money, but also it needs to give its contributors a reason to create content, right? To edit content, because if that content is not visible, then it's a much harder sell. So I think Wikipedia is not in a good space, and I think that LLM companies, LLM developers, and Google have an obligation to donate money to Wikipedia. I think Google has actually made larger donations in the past. And I think that's where funding needs to come from. Is it still a nonprofit then? Maybe. I don't know the legalities around it. It's definitely funded by fewer players, but I think that's what needs to happen to keep this alive.
But do you think Wikipedia, or Wikimedia in that sense, made a mistake early on by not like immediately restricting. They saw like this whole AI craze is going on. Obviously, everybody's going to feed off our content. We got to close it down like Reddit. And then basically, like Reddit, sell their content to these AIs. Did they just let that happen? And now it's already, I mean, like, this is like a foundation in all of the training data, right? What they have there. Is it now too late?
Probably yes. I mean, I'm not a legal expert, but I even wonder if they would have been allowed to block LLMs and then sell the data as a nonprofit. I don't know if you can do that.
Okay.
So that's one question. The other thing is, all this happened faster than anybody could react. Meaning, you had other nonprofits like Common Crawl scrape the whole internet and put it in a zip file and then basically give it away for free. So even if you block those LM crawlers, you also need to somehow get all of that content away from nonprofits and web crawlers like Common Crawl, which is incredibly difficult. So if 80% or so of your content is already, in the training data, how much sense does it then make to restrict everything else? I don't know. I think it's a very difficult one. I think where it makes sense for Reddit and Meta and all these other companies is because they continuously get new content, right? They have a much faster content generation, whereas a lot of effort on Wikipedia goes into editing existing content because they want to, update it or keep it alive or that kind of stuff. So,
although there's a lot of new stuff also, I mean, like, which gets new Wikipedia pages. I mean, also, but yeah, I totally see your point.
Yeah. Sure. No, totally. And it's really good to establish a consensus about established topics, but it's really not great to train conversational models. So I think Wikipedia is more like the entity database, sort of database in the training data, and then social network content like Reddit, right? That's where models can actually learn what a conversation looks like and maybe what a good answer looks like, a bad answer, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I think it's tough for Wikipedia. It might be too late and they need funding desperately. And Wikipedia is very important for the web and for everyone else.
But we're basically saying nonprofits don't have a chance anymore. They don't stand a chance. If you're a nonprofit, okay.
Yeah.
By the way, while we are so saddened now, Dennis is coming in. Dennis Chodderber. Dennis having some beers, rightfully so. Enjoy the start of your weekend, Dennis. It's great to see you here. Yeah, I got lots of more news here. There was an interesting study on Ahrefs, and I think you were also on a blog, on a podcast. I didn't listen to it, but I saw some stuff. And I think this was a very interesting analysis here. What triggers AI overviews? Some very good stuff here. Also 21% of all keywords show an AI overview. 99.9% of AIOs appear on informational intent keywords, which makes a lot of sense, obviously, but they're moving into shopping. We're going to talk about this in a minute. More common for non-branded keywords than branded keywords also makes a lot of sense. And what I especially liked was this. So basically the difference from the baseline, depending on what you're searching for. So you can see that basically, also whatever you're searching for, like a comparison, whatever, it's going to more likely be like an AI overview. If you search for something not safe for work, it's going to be less likely you get in an AI overview, as well as news, or, visit in person intent. Okay, well, it's very hard to do with an AI overview. And also navigation and commercial transaction, what we just talked about, right? And adult. And I love that as how to display that data. I really thought that's pretty cool, to really understand where actually AIOs are being shown. What did you make out of this study here?
Yeah, what I found really interesting is that stat saying that almost 50% of AI overviews appear for queries with more than 7 words. I think that is exactly where everything is heading, right?
The long tail.
The long tail, longer searches makes perfect sense. That overlaps with my personal experience as well. Question queries even more. That also makes a lot of sense. News, that is very interesting, right? News is not AIO territory. Classically, only 6% now, which I'm surprised it's that high actually. But I'm very curious.
It's like also a different system. Google News, you will discover being a different system. They just want to, like, they have the system here with AI overviews and then use that, which is different.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Google News, obviously very disjointed from regular search. And sometimes you have topics that are not newsworthy, and all of a sudden they become very newsworthy because there's some change, right, happening that Google wants to address. And so I'm very curious what Google's news or AI news experience will look like. That's going to upset a lot of different people. But it's really the long tail that I found most interesting, and it very much overlaps with my analysis. So a week or two ago, I looked at how many AI overviews show up for Wikipedia, Reddit, and YouTube, and I also saw that we're getting very close to 50%. And I think the bigger picture here is that we're going towards 100% down the line, right? Maybe it doesn't make sense to show AI overviews for brand queries. Maybe some local queries. I assume Google will provide a much better product than AI overviews for that. But for everything else, get ready to see AI overviews everywhere all the time.
All right, let's talk about some bad boys one more time. About some hackers exploiting websites to inject malicious links for SEO manipulation. I mean, of course, nothing new here. But what's new? The just amount of website being infected with gambling SEO spam over the year. It has skyrocketed. And I also saw stuff like this. Obviously, AI being able to scale much better than ever before is playing a huge role in this. But this is alarming, to say the least. I was really dumbfounded that it's like really, oh my God, how this is taking off. And there's a lot of basically like as websites getting hacked, and not just individual websites, but like groups of websites, like flocks of websites are getting hacked and basically injected with casino spam. And in a lot of cases, also cloaked for the webmaster, which is like the worst thing, because you go to a website and it looks all good. Somebody else goes into the website and he actually gets that gambling ad. So this is horrible, and also it's really crazy out there. But I mean, like, of course, ever since Corona started, online gambling has been on a rise. People sit more at home, and you can do it from the whole world, literally. So this is why they're, I think, so aggressive here. But this is really not a good trend, to say the least. And it's getting even worse because Google is basically has an AI threat tracker, and they see a lot of advances in threat actor usage of AI tools. Obviously, these guys are also going to use these tools. And what I didn't realize, to that extent at that point, it's super interesting if you read through these different attack vectors they're trying, very elaborate ideas, I would think. Like evil ideas, but very elaborate evil ideas. And what I didn't know to that extent, there's already so many like custom tools for these guys, right? So the fraud GPT, the spam GPT, the malware GPT, there's like really specialized GPTs basically helping with whatever you want to do, developing malware, phishing attempts, vulnerability exploitation. And as we know, the most widespread use in hacking, also if you really want to hack something, is really personal, personal engineering, right? Social engineering, and obviously also AI is very good at that, convincing people or helping you find storylines that help people convince, doing whatever you want them to do. Were you aware of this? I was like, I read that article and I was like, oh my God, right? Like, obviously I thought stuff like this is going on, but not to that extent and the professionality behind it. What are you saying? Think about this.
Yeah, I'm always blown away by how creative spammers and black hat SEOs are, or black hats in general. If they would put only 50% of their creativity into a normal job, they would make, I don't know if they would make more money, but it would, I don't know.
less money. Yeah, they would make less money.
It's just so crazy, man. But look, I wish I could cite the source, but I recently read a stat that shows where AI has the biggest impact, and specifically at companies.
Mhm.
And of course, you have things like, productivity, you have things like content marketing and all that kind of stuff. But one of the most impactful areas of any companies is threat identification or threat actors. So to detect patterns that are very outside of the norm from a context of cyber defense, AI seems to be working really, really well. And so, again, I have to dig that stat out for next time. But if I remember, it was even more impactful than just coding and technical productivity in that sense. So good gains, which is very needed, because when I see the stuff you pull out from the web left and right, we need better defenses.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dennis is saying, of course, if you sell the tools, you're not breaking the law. Technically, yeah, you just help people break the law. Okay. By the way, the negative review extortion scam, by the way, is working really well. So Google has released this form. We talked about this on the show. There's no new form, and it actually worked. So we got people saying, yes, it really worked. So if you are being extorted for Google reviews, hey, if you don't pay me money, I'm going to write bad reviews. You can use this form. It works. All right. Then and now we want to talk about what Dennis just said. Expect shopping AI really soon, but there's no shopping AI yet, but there's shopping related tools, and Google added some AI shopping tools across search and Gemini. And I want to jump directly into this, basically Glenn sharing what Rabbi Stein is sharing. And I want to show this video to you all if you haven't seen it. So this basically knows somebody looking for a charcuterie board, like a cutting board. Okay, and now he says, okay, I would like this one, and this is very interesting. I tracked the price. This is too expensive. I want exactly this one. I love how you can define, like, oh no, it's a bit bigger or lower, shorter one. And then I can set a price. Please alert me again, like a very good functionality here. And now he gets it. Okay, now price has been reduced, and there's this buy for me, and it will basically buy it for you in this very sleek process here. And it's done. Also, for me, I mean, I don't buy a lot of stuff of Google. I mean, you know me, right? I love to go to stores and buy it in a physical store, as a physical store. Also, it's very nice. What did you think of it?
Well, the first thought, and this is brand new. So, I think half an hour or an hour ago, we just got news that Accord ordered Google to pay, I think, $570 million.
Idealo and
Idealo.
yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so that was the first thought that I had. It's like, are they going to roll this out in Germany and Europe? Like, how do they feel about those $500 million that they just had to pay? Because obviously it's not for that reason, but it's another example of how big of an organization Google is and how they have many teams that might not coordinate as well, right? Because on the one hand, they just got a massive slap on the wrist. On the other hand, you now have the team around AI mode being like, hey, we should track prices and replace some of Idealo's functionality here. I mean, that's not what they thought literally, but it's a very coincidental timing. As a customer, of course, I like it. As you know, from a monopoly perspective or regulation perspective, obviously doesn't look that great.
But it makes so much sense for Google. Why should Google say, oh, there's other people doing this, but I can do it so much better and like really integrate it so well into everything, right? It makes so much sense for Google to do it. So why wouldn't they do it and just dash ahead, have people use it, have people love it, love using it, and just, you make more than $500 million. You can also give $500 million if somebody, really drags you to court. But I just like it's amazing, like the level of like innovation coming out every week. We see new stuff, and especially like this, right? This is also what a great time to be alive. Also definitely. Dennis is saying Google AI Max is coming soon. Yeah, just give me your budget and what you're willing to pay for a lead. That's all you need to do. Probably good. It's probably gonna be it. And you talked about it, Google. I didn't take that news here with us here with Idealo getting awarded $500 million to the court order. But there's also another thing where Google is being sued. And this is very interesting. When I saw this the first time, I was like, really? Yeah, claims that Google demoted publishers who carry paid promotional content, such as sponsored articles, which is a little bit weird because like most of the time it's on a different, right? It's somewhere different, like the sponsored articles, like on a New York Times or whatever, it will not be like as a normal article, right? So that's just really would happen. So I can totally see Google doing this. I mean, like obviously, because then you can basically pay to play, right? I mean, like, oh, it's so easy to get into with Discovered everything when you have like an authoritative domain. So I just pay more to get on these authoritative domain to get my sponsored content shown. And I think obviously it makes sense for Google to prevent that of happening. But what did you make out of it when you read that for the first time?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because on the one hand, I said that Google just doesn't care as much about webmasters and SEO anymore. But then on the other hand, they're going against this. I don't know if this is the right priority for the company. To your point, right? Like the times when sponsored content is abused, I don't think is that high. I might be missing something. I might not have the data, but this feels like a very small thing. It's similar to the publisher penalty that Google dished out for hosting content that is not related. It was like
scale content abuse.
Yeah, exactly. Site reputation abuse or whatever it was called. Like, is that such a big problem? Like, leave these poor publishers, a bone to gnaw on. But I don't know. This it has the same taste to me.
But it also it controls how publishers that want to be visible in Google make money. This is like they can't make money like that, right? This doesn't work. By the way, Google responded to it. They defended this parasite SEO crackdown, and actually Nandu Payak, also none other than Nandu Payak, was actually he wrote the response, which I thought was pretty notable. And they're saying, here first, Google stated that a German court dismissed a similar claim, ruling the anti-spam policy was valid, reasonable, and applied consistently. And second, Google says this policy protects users from scams and low-quality content, allowing pay-to-play ranking manipulations would enable bad actors to displace sites that don't use those spammy tactics, obviously. And it helps level the playing field. So we're the good guys here. And this is also what I thought, is this really the fight you want to fight? I don't think so. Okay. We got two more things I want to talk to you about. The first thing, the 2026 SEO trends, top predictions from 20 industry experts. Very good piece here by Chima. She asked a lot of different SEO experts. Has she asked you as well? I don't see you on here.
I don't know, but that's okay. I don't need to have my face everywhere. It's opportunity to let some up and coming people, get some of the visibility.
Yeah, and I just scrolled through this a little, and I thought also quite nice. I can sign off most of the things, like relevance engineering will define the future of AI search. Obviously, this is the narrative that Mike and his company, iProRank, is like really driving relevance engineering. I love this. This is really cool. Then backend optimization will be crucial for agentic AI and assistance. Obviously, if you don't have the backend to support it, all these agents will basically stand on your virtual door, not being able to do anything. So very good point making. Brand sentiment and trust will influence AI visibility. Of course, yes. Product content will drive AI search visibility. Yes, yeah, product-led content. I think perfect in an AI dominated search landscape. Diversified content formats will increase AI visibility. Check. Obviously, you want to create wherever your people are, whatever type of media they're consuming. This is what you want to give to them. And also here from Mark William Cook, SEO split into RAG versus non-RAG content strategies. Also very interesting. I don't know if you looked through this stuff. Was there something that particularly caught your eye, or as for me it was like, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. All good, all good. But I didn't see like I didn't think of that aspect or things like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes to show that we're still discovering and figuring all of this out, right? And I think something else that is really important to mention is that we have much less control over LLMs than we have over Google, right? It's just a very different game when you get a single response versus a list of search results. So I don't want to. I think some of these takes are actually great in the article. I love them. I think it's a great piece of content, and I think it's a great reflection of the fact that we haven't uncovered any kind of crazy tricks, or maybe we don't want to share them. I mean, that's always possible, but I personally don't know anybody who has like a crazy trick that that's that. I don't know anybody who has like found the backlinks of early Google, for example, just in the ChatGPT context here. So again, good piece. Should definitely read it. I think it's interesting. It gave me some stuff to think about, like how do we optimize for training data versus RAG. But yeah, man, like we're early, and things change all the time, and we're still learning. And we don't have a playbook yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but not least, I watched this presentation from Lily. She actually presented this as Mars. And I was like, I don't know, do I want to watch it? Look. And then I watched it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. As she did such a great job. The storytelling is just prime. This is just amazing storytelling. I mean, like what Mike did a little bit a while back, where he was doing this movie. I think this was like the pinnacle of SEO presentation. Also Hans at the G50 Summit. I mean, for me, best presentation ever at G50. But also here, I love, as not just that she's basically like, it's super informative, especially for people I think that a little bit newer to the field, or you could give this to a CMO guy that's not really like dabbling into SEO, and she explains it so well, and also the evolution, how this has all happened, and she uses basically this alligator party, these different alligators, and it's phenomenal. So it is so beautiful, such a beautiful presentation here from Lily. Also, yeah, just everybody got to watch that. Please do. This is my last bit, so to speak, for this show. By the way, Dennis also has a great Black Hat SEO technique, sponsor an FI team for SEO profit. I mean, this is obviously not suitable for everyone. You need to have a little bit of deep pockets. But I know his case, what he did back there was just plain out spectacular. So, but again, not suitable for everyone and every type of company, I guess.
And why don't you try it out, Marcus, and then you report back to us on how it worked?
Well, I don't like F1 so much, so I would rather do it with a different thing. I don't know. Like,
it can't be chess. Okay, I'm sorry. I love chess so much, but you just don't have the audience there. It's not enough viewers.
It's just not good TV. Yeah, not as good as Formula One, I guess. Rüdiger's already left. It was lovely as always. I had to 302 myself into the weekend. No, you shouldn't feel bad, because we want to 302 redirect you guys from work to the weekend. Thanks so much for being a part of the show again. Thanks so much for commenting, everybody. Thanks for just watching. And yeah, if you speak German, please join us again on Monday together with Johan for the Daily Dose of SEO. And yeah, if you like this, you should be here again next Friday, 4 p.m. And oh yeah, this will be the last show before SEOcom. So the next one will actually be a live show at SEOcom. This is going to be nice. Oh, we didn't know if we can do that at 4, right? Oh, yeah, okay. We're going to talk about
figure it out.
Yeah. So you got to be here next week. I mean, you of course, but everybody, you have to be here next week at 4. We'll have good topics for you. Yeah, thanks so much. Have a great weekend, everyone, and happy optimizing. Take care. Bye. Keep on waving.